Hey everyone, Erick Stakelbeck here. Today on the Newscast, an unholy alliance between Hezbollah and Hamas continues to grow. Get all the latest details on that, plus a very special Watchman Newscast offer that you do not want to miss. Stick around. Hey folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast. It is a match made in hell. Hamas and Hezbollah, two of the world's deadliest and most notorious terrorist organizations, are apparently drawing closer together. Over the past week, we saw the so-called political leader of Hamas in Gaza, Ismail Haniyeh, travel to Lebanon, where he met with Hezbollah leader Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah, who apparently was able to emerge from hiding in his underground bunker in just enough time to not only meet with Haniyeh, but these two terror masters also met with, or I guess conferenced in, other leaders from the so-called Palestinian resistance groups. We're going to get into why they met, why now, and what was the content of their conversations. Also, we've got a very special Watchman Newscast discount offer that you do not want to miss, especially if you've never been to Israel, it's your lifelong dream, it's on your bucket list, or if you've been to Israel but it's been some time since you've returned, you will not want to miss this very special offer we have coming up a bit later in just a few minutes. So be sure to stick around. Before we get into Hamas, Hezbollah, the unholy alliance, the special offer, we want to encourage you as well to subscribe to the Watchman News channel right here on YouTube and click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. Folks, I'll wager that many people out there, we have a very educated and informed audience here on the Watchman Newscast, but probably a lot of people didn't know that Haniyeh and Nasrallah met just a few days ago in Lebanon. Hey, this is the kind of meeting between two leading terror masters that you need to know about, but there was scant coverage of this in the mainstream media. Surprise, surprise, but we are bringing you this kind of cutting-edge, timely information that you just won't get anywhere else. Folks, what happens in the Middle East does not stay in the Middle East. So if the leaders of Hamas and Hezbollah are meeting, I think you need to know about that. So let's get into it. Nasrallah and Haniyeh. Now, it had been some 30 years since Ismail Haniyeh set foot on Lebanese soil, yet here he is. So why now? Two things here, folks, to keep in mind. Number one, over the past several weeks, and we have been documenting this right here on the Watchman Newscast, we've seen Hezbollah and Hamas ramp up their attacks and attempted attacks against Israel. We had at least two attempted Hezbollah attacks against Israeli soldiers along that Israel-Lebanon border, and Hezbollah leader Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah has vowed to murder an Israeli soldier, and that threat remains open-ended. And then we have Hamas. They've been launching not only an increase in rockets, now it's slowed down over the past week, thank God, but over the course of August, we saw an increase in rocket attacks out of Gaza against southern Israel. Not only that, these airborne explosive devices, these incendiary balloons that Hamas has sent from Gaza into southern Israel. Folks, over the past few years, they have scorched thousands of acres of land in southern Israel with these explosive devices. And hey, agriculture and farming is really the driving force behind the economy in southern Israel. So this was a very big deal. Again, as I said, those attacks have slowed down, but the bottom line is Hezbollah and Hamas clearly, over the course of the summer of 2020, have been stepping up their diabolical efforts against Israel. So the meeting between Nasrallah and Haniyeh comes with that as a backdrop. Secondly, number two, of course, we see the increase in the strategic alliance. Not just peace deals, but an actual strategic alliance between Israel and its Sunni Arab neighbors. Obviously, we have the United Arab Emirates making peace with Israel, making history really in August, and we have talk of Bahrain, another Gulf state, another Sunni Arab nation, being next to come to the table and make peace with Israel. Of course, we've got Saudi Arabia, Oman. There's even been rumblings that Sudan could make peace with Israel eventually. And over the past few days, we had two other very interesting and important announcements. Serbia and Kosovo are going to move their embassies to Jerusalem. Now, folks, Right now, the United States obviously was the very first nation to move its embassy to Jerusalem. Guatemala followed suit soon after. Honduras has said that they plan to move their embassy to Jerusalem as well. But Kosovo and Serbia, very interesting. Kosovo, a new nation, a Muslim majority nation, moving its embassy to Jerusalem. Very interesting there, especially because Serbia and Kosovo had been at loggerheads over the past 12 years, really. But now both of them can agree that they want to move their embassies to Jerusalem. So again, Kosovo, Muslim majority, obviously UAE, Bahrain, all of these Sunni Arab nations, Muslim majority nations, obviously. And these would be the traditional power bases. The Sunni Arab world would be natural allies, you would think, to Sunni Arab Hamas. But folks, that's not the case, because Hamas is, number one, the self-described Palestinian branch of the Muslim Brotherhood, which is an enemy to the Saudis, to the UAE. The UAE and Saudi Arabia have banned the Muslim Brotherhood. Also an enemy to Egypt, of course, to Jordan. So that's number one. That's one strike Hamas has against it in dealing with its Sunni Arab neighbors. And the second strike, obviously, is Iran. The Iranian regime is the largest backer, supporter, benefactor of the Hamas terrorist organization. And look, the main reason right now that Israel is forming this strategic alliance with the Sunni Arab nations is Iran and this growing Iranian menace that is looming over the region and that directly threatens the Sunni Arab world. Who is in this Iranian axis? The Assad regime in Syria, Palestinian Islamic Jihad in Gaza, and of course, Hamas and Hezbollah. So lo and behold, Iran's two most important and lethal proxies are meeting in Lebanon over the past week. I think the main reason is, of course, how do we approach, they're saying, how do we counteract this growing strategic alliance between Israel and the Arab world, the Sunni Arab world? Hey, this means big trouble for Hamas and Hezbollah, folks, because it isolates them even further from their fellow Muslims. So all they can do right now is lean on each other and lean on their Iranian master. It's a very dangerous thing because, as we've told you many times on the newscast, this great northern war is coming. And it's going to pit Israel. Not a question of if, but when, folks. I hate to say it, but it's going to pit the Israel Defense Forces against the Iranian regime, Hezbollah, and their various radical allies in Lebanon and Syria at Israel's northern doorstep. That major conflict is coming. But by the same token, you have Hamas, a very serious threat, a persistent thorn in Israel's side to the south, and you can bet that Haniyeh and Nasrallah were talking about coordination in any future conflict. When it breaks out in the north, you can bet that Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad to Israel's south will throw their hat in the ring as well and attempt to create a very dangerous distraction and diversion for Israel. Look, Israel is going to be focused on a major conflict in the north, yet their attention will also be pulled to the south when Hamas and its ilk, like Palestinian Islamic Jihad, begin firing rockets from the south as well. The goal is to make Israel fight a war on multiple fronts. Now, folks, I know that when I'm bringing you news of Hamas and Hezbollah meeting and devising some new evil plan against Israel, it's not the most pleasant news for you to hear. I get it. But we believe that you'd rather know than not know what is unfolding right now in the world's most pivotal region, the Middle East, because what happens in the Middle East does not stay in the Middle East. Events unfolding there will profoundly affect all of us, no matter where we live in the world. And hey, here's the good news. The God of Israel, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the protector of Israel, God's word is very clear. Neither slumbers nor sleeps. As a matter of fact, the book of Psalms says on numerous occasions that God sees the likes of Hamas and Hezbollah today in the modern day. He sees Israel's enemies devising evil plans and he laughs. God literally sees this and he laughs because his hand, his hedge of protection is on his land and his people Israel will be just fine. As a matter of fact, Israel is thriving now, today in 2020, like it never has before. Speaking of Israel, we get a lot of comments from people here on YouTube saying, hey, Erick, thank you for the work you are doing. It's been my lifelong dream to visit Israel, to set foot in the Holy Land, but for whatever reason, I haven't been able to make it happen. There's a lot of reasons, financial, family obligations. People just haven't been able to get to Israel. It's on their bucket list. Everyone wants to walk where Jesus walked, where the prophets walked, where the kings of Israel walked, where the Bible unfolded. Other people say, man, you know, I was in Israel once, 10 years ago. I'd love to go back. In my case, I'm blessed and fortunate enough, folks, I thank God every single day to be able to travel to Israel, usually every 3 months or so. Jerusalem is my second home. I'm going back and forth, and I am filming in Israel for the Watchman TV show, which you can catch every week on TBN. But over the past several months, because of COVID-19 restrictions, I have not been able to travel to Israel like I normally would. And let me tell you, I miss it dearly. Again, Israel is my second home. For believers, we all feel at home. You get that excitement when you're about to land. You're in the plane, you're getting closer to Israel. I just feel that excitement in my heart. I can't wait to get in the land. It never gets old. But again, over the past several months, I've been kind of homesick, I have to say. So thank God for a great company that we're partnering here with exclusively on the Watchman News channel, AL-QAEDA. Now, AL-QAEDA sends these amazing boxes. Their tagline, I guess you would say, is the Holy Land delivered. You see this awesome box. It's about the size of a shoebox, really, not too heavy. And number one, just to say, when they said, we're going to send you a box, I said, oh man, they're sending a box a long distance. It's probably going to arrive to my home all dinged up and banged up and scratched up. Maybe things will be dented. Folks, when this box arrived, it was pristine. Not a mark on it. The only mark on it now is from when I ripped it open. I couldn't wait to see what was inside, and I want to share it with you in a second. Let me just say, go to www.artsabox.com. You see the URL there on your screen, and type in the discount code Watchman15. That's Watchman15 to get a 15% discount off an AL-QAEDA box. Now, this is a quarterly subscription. You can do just the regular standard. That's the box we have today that we're going to show you in a minute. Or you can do the premium subscription. Every quarter, you will receive one of these awesome boxes. Now, the first one for the first quarter is from Nazareth. That's right, actual Israeli products. I'm going to open it now. Israeli products made by Israeli business owners, small businesses, Israeli farmers, businesses in Israel, exclusively from Nazareth, from the town where Jesus grew up. That is the offer this quarter for AL-QAEDA. Now, as we get closer to Christmas, there will be a box from Bethlehem. Then as the year goes on, Jerusalem and Galilee. So 4 boxes over the course of the year. They arrive in the mail, obviously in mint condition. As I told you from my box, they'll arrive in the mail quarterly. And folks, this gives you a taste of the Holy Land. If you have never been in Israel, this is as close as I have gotten to Israel over the past several months. I was so excited to open it. Okay, let's actually open this AL-QAEDA box and see what's inside and why it is so special. A Watchman unboxing for our good friends at AL-QAEDA. This is kind of fun. I like this. Right when you open the box on top, kind of an introductory little poster board here with a picture of Nazareth on the back, describing Nazareth and describing what's in the box. You've even got some Hebrew here, which is kind of a cool feature, teaching you some Hebrew. Also on top, I like this, before you even get to the products, you've got some swag. I like this. Postcards from Israel with images from Nazareth. Very nice. Also some recipes. I see shakshuka. We'll talk more about that in a second. Different Israeli dishes. You've got recipes in here. Really nice. And a little bit more about the companies, by the way, that made these products. So I like that. As soon as you open up the box, you've got some info on top telling you what you're getting. But let's get into the good stuff. The really good stuff. That's great, but let's get into the products, the nitty-gritty. 3D painting on glass made by an Israeli artist. Check this out, folks. Beautiful. The dove. You have the Star of David in the background with the dove there. Sign of peace, like the dove that descended upon Jesus when he got baptized by John the Baptist. Pretty amazing. So this is very nice, this mini painting. Put this on your wall, on your desk, and it's special because it was made in Israel by an Israeli artist. Very special product. I like that. That's a great way to start. Now, I said this was a taste of Israel as well. We've got some shakshuka blend here. Now, shakshuka is an Israeli specialty, famous as a breakfast in Israel. I love it. Delicious. I discovered it in Israel. I didn't know what it was. Now I'm in love with shakshuka. This is shakshuka blend. You can make it at home. A lot more people are kind of doing the Israeli Mediterranean diet here in the United States where I live. It's healthy and it's delicious. So this is very cool, straight from Israel. This is the real deal. This isn't just from the supermarket. This is from Israel. Shakshuka blend. I like it. This box smells great, by the way, and it makes me even more homesick, I should say, because Israel, everything is more intense in Israel. The sights, the sounds, the smells, it's all just ramped up to another degree. It's the most special place on earth. Speaking of more taste, more food, I like it. This is good. From Israel, it's an Israeli family boutique. Again, an Israeli business, a small business in Israel. You've got some apple, pomegranate, and honey spread. This is good. This will go on my toast tomorrow morning. Really good stuff. I like that. I like the diversity too. It's not just food. We have soap here, organic soap made in Israel. Very cool, made in Nazareth, this soap. Smells great, good stuff. Wow, this is great because all these sights, sounds, smells, it's bringing me back to the land that I know so well, being in Israel every few months. And it's kind of like an appendage. A part of me has been taken away since the wintertime, not being able to travel to Israel. And if you're a believer, you're out there, it's that gaping hole in your heart. Not a hole in your heart, but a longing in your heart, I should say. A longing to get to Israel. And folks, once you go, you can't wait to get back. It's like a gravitational tug on your heart. You must return. So if you've never been, this is a great way for you to start with real, original, authentic, Israeli-made products. We've also got here, now I love this. This is made by Susan's House. It's an Israeli organization that works, I've got the information here. It's a workshop that works with at-risk Israeli teens. Very cool, and at-risk Israeli teens actually make these, like this great heart that you see here, ceramic heart that you see here. Hang it, hey, great. This is a conversation piece at Christmas time, hanging on your Christmas tree, an ornament from Israel. Kind of cool. People might say, wow, where's that heart from? Actually, it was made in Israel, and it goes to help Israeli at-risk teens. That's a great cause, folks, and they actually make these. These are kids who maybe come from a tough background, and ARTSA and through this deal and through Susan's House, they're actually making these great products, and it's teaching them some great skills. Pretty awesome. Okay, we're almost done here. Shalva tea, tea is very big in Israel. Huge tea drinkers, coffee drinkers. So this is good stuff from the land. It's Israeli herbal tea. Another taste of Israel for you. Now this is cool. We have one product. The grand finale is coming after this. Reveal Israel. This is actually a game, a cool game you can play with your family, your friends, have people over on board game night. Reveal Israel. It's a family card game, 70 sites, 90 play cards made in Israel. Information all about Israel, the geography, the land, the Bible. Cool stuff to play with your friends. Okay, last product here. And again, there's a lot of variety here, as you can see. That's what I love about this. It's not just food. It's not just artwork. It's a little bit of everything that ARTSA is bringing in their boxes. And that's what I love about it. Last thing, hand-carved in the land of Israel, in Nazareth. Gotta love it. I think that's a great way to close out with our ARTSA unboxing. Hey, I want to give the guys a shout out, especially Nate and Itai at ARTSA. We've been talking about doing this collaboration for about 2 months, and life happens, right? As everyone knows watching, we moved, my family and I moved, as I've shared here on the newscast. I was on vacation, we moved, which was a bear moving, and then things happen in the news. Israel and UAE sign a peace deal. Hezbollah, God forbid, launches rockets. All sorts of news happens. There's a great archaeological discovery in Israel that we need to bring you right away. The ARTSA guys were so patient. They said, hey, no problem. It'll get on there when the timing's right. So I believe it's God's timing today, Tuesday, September 8th, to offer you this Artza box. Again, go to www.artzabox.com. As you can tell, I had fun here with the unboxing. I think you will too. I actually opened it at first with my wife and daughter just a little while ago. It just arrived a few days ago. We opened it. My wife and daughter were excited as well, but I got a chance to reseal it and reopen it for you guys watching. So hope you like it. Again, www.artzabox.com. 15% discount, not bad. Watchman 15. Again, the code is Watchman 15. You can do it quarterly. You will do it. It's a quarterly subscription. You can do just the standard box that you saw today, which is pretty awesome for a standard box, or you can do the premium box where you get some even more special products. Again, all made in Israel. That's number one. And number two, the proceeds go back to Israeli businesses. So this is something I feel very good about, folks. I don't collaborate with just anyone. It has to be a like-minded organization that is blessing Israel and or blessing the body of Christ, like I said. And I believe Artza is doing both. So really proud to partner with them. More to come from Artza in the months to come. A Bethlehem box. They started again with Nazareth. They'll have a Bethlehem box, a Jerusalem box, a Galilee box. This is really cool stuff. And again, at a time when we're all limited, right? God willing, I'll be back in Israel very, very soon. But who knows? With the craziness right now, all the travel restrictions, COVID-19, Israeli businesses have been hit very hard by COVID-19. That's why I think Artza is coming along with this offer at the perfect time and for the perfect cause. So check it out. I loved it. I'm sure you will too. Hey, thanks for joining us here on the Newscast. It's interesting. We started very serious subject matter, obviously, but it was pretty cool to close like this and encourage you, right? Israeli businesses are still thriving, and businesses like Artza are thriving and producing great content and products like this that can bring you a lot of joy. So God bless you. We will see you again Thursday. Until next time from the Watchman Newscast, remember, never hold your peace.